And we're back with Legends of Lake Howell. Today, I'm happy to be with Sean Pagan, owner of Otto's High Dive. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
So Otto's High Dive, I think it's got an interesting story behind it. I see the pictures here on the wall. Tell me about this restaurant.
So we are a high-end Cuban, Caribbean fusion cuisine is what we try to focus on. Me and my business partners, we're from Florida, and one of our other business partners is from Cuba himself. And basically the whole background of the restaurant is his family used to own a bar from 1950s Cuba, and we're just trying to pay homage to that with a little higher end steps, you know. But really, we've won a Michelin Bib Gourmand about 2-3 months after we opened 2 years ago, and then last year we retained that award and won our Exceptional Cocktail Award, which they've only ever given out twice. So just trying to do nice things in a little sleepy town.
So you mentioned that you won 2 awards. So tell us a little bit about the awards. What do you have to do to be recognized?
So the awards, I mean, it's a very prestigious award. It's given off by the Michelin company, the tire company, and pretty much whatever ranking they give you, we received a Bib Gourmand. That means that it's great food with a great price. You can pretty much get 3 courses for under 50 or 60 bucks. Then they have levels of that. There's also like Michelin stars, which some other people have probably heard before. There's a 1, 2, and 3. Those are pretty much just based off of like, if you're in the area, you should try this. And then a 2 stars, if you're not in the area, you should definitely go to this. And then a 3 star is like, you should travel the world to try this style of food. And then so they also have other awards that they give out that have higher recognitions. There's a green star, which another restaurant in the area, Kaya, they won that, which is like a sustainable award. And then there's also the award that we won, it's the cocktail award.
So let's talk about the menu. What type of food do you serve here?
So mostly we serve a mix of Cuban dishes, a mix of old Florida dishes, and then a mix of some Caribbean cuisine in that area because like everything in the world, it's a melting pot, and all those basic cuisines came from a place, whether that's Spain or Europe or mostly that's just really Spanish.
So you mentioned Old Florida. What's an Old Florida dish?
Old Florida dish for us, primarily for us, I like to think of Florida as a seafood place. So like old dishes for us are like oysters. We serve those fresh. Most of the oysters that we do get are either from can or PI, but during colder months here in Florida, we actually pull a lot of our oysters actually from St. Augustine. There's a great story about Gene Johnson, who was a local oyster guy that literally was in prison and they would let him out to throw oyster parties, and like the dead Kennedys came down. So I think oysters are like a big Florida cuisine, so we stick with that, but we also do like smoked fish dip, shrimp cocktail, just some like kind of the classic things like, if you're out by the beach and you want to enjoy, that's what we try to serve,
So this is my first time coming into the restaurant. So I'm here and I'm sitting down as a customer and I'm looking at your menu, not sure what to order. What do you recommend?
Oof, that's a good question. First and foremost are drinks. Like we would like to get you started with those. They're award-winning. They're unlike any other drink or cocktail you will probably have in town. Not just because of the way it looks, but the way it tastes. It's very balanced, nothing too sweet, nothing too sour. But as far as food goes, I mean, I don't want to be that guy and be cliche, but there's really not one thing on our menu you won't find that's great. Our media noche, which is amazing, it's only $16. It's a pound of meat on it. It's a huge bread. It's very famous in Cuba, very famous here in Florida too. So those, but honestly, like our red meat, we do really well. Our Wagyu skirt steak is fantastic. Our ribeye, we sous vide it in duck fat for a day, and then rub it in coffee rub, and then grill it over an open flame. So there's a lot of, it just kind of depends on what direction you want to go, But yeah, it's really hard not to find one thing that you wouldn't like. My favorite thing personally though is the tres leches. It's a dessert. It's huge. It feeds like 2 to 3 people. We do a little spin on it where we add Florida orange citrus to it, so it's kind of like orange creamsicle tres leches, but it's delicious. I have one every day, so I can't
So this location itself, how did this come about? How did you decide on this location, decide to build a restaurant?
Well, we originally were walking, me and my business partner, we had another concept that we were going to do something, and we were trying to look in Longwood, but COVID happened. We didn't want to sign the lease, obviously, when that happened, so we kind of backed off. And then luckily, some friends of ours from Sourdough Brewing, which is like located right next to us, they put us in contact with a man named Giovanni Fernandez, who owns this whole shopping center. And we showed him our business plans, and he loved one of them, and that's how this whole, he loved it so much that he wanted to help us out and asked us if there's any way he could be a part of it. And because of him, we found this beautiful space that he had, and it's just a melting pot between what we wanted to do food and drink wise. And I think really having him come on board, and something that we were really missing was culture, and acting like, everyone wants to have just a restaurant right down the road, but restaurants with a story, and restaurants with backgrounds, and restaurants with, a whole culture to them, are like, those are things that last for a long time. So he brought that aspect to us, and, just a perfect, when things work, they just blend together and becomes a perfect symphony.
And how long have you been in this location here?
This location, we've been open for 2 years in December, but we've had the lease for I think 5 years now. The build out was almost about 3 years it took us to build out. So a lot of time sitting in this booth and figuring out, does this picture go here? Does it go there? Kind of thing. So yeah. So.
Any plans on expanding? Or?
Of course, I would love to, but it's one of those things I think we have to really solidify what we do here and make sure that everyone that comes in this building is very happy and pleased with what the product they get and the service and everything like that. And once we feel like we've mastered that, yeah, we'll try to probably do something similar, and do it again.
So what are your hours like in terms of you running a restaurant? What does it look like?
That's a great question. Our hours on the building are 4 to 12 a.m. We do a last seating at 11, which most restaurants don't do in Orlando, but I just kind of want to give those people, there's always that weird animosity about coming in right before the restaurant closes, or if it's good or not. So we just said, we'll last seat at 11, and we'll give those people that come in that whole hour of service that they have. They don't feel pressured, they don't feel obligated to hurry. We want to make sure we do those. So something like that, it just really, what I'm really getting at is a 24-hour job. I have prep people here at 6:30 in the morning. They leave all the way till they work all the way till about 4 or 5, and they leave, and then my bartenders and everybody else shows up to set up, and they're here even though we close at midnight. We probably don't get out of here till about 2, because we chose white tile on the floors, and maybe something in the hindsight we won't do again, but yeah, so it takes, we like to clean, we like to be very cleanliness, so obviously that's the big thing about restaurants. Everyone doesn't understand that, the hours for us in the middle of the restaurant are great. That's when the magic is happening. That's when we're happy. The worst are when everyone leaves and we got to clean for 2 hours and make sure it's all spotless for the next day.
So is this something that you always wanted to do when you were in school, or this just something that, and what I mean by school, in high school?
In high school, yeah. Of course. It was. When I was 12 years old, my parents were both registered nurses, and they used to work opposite shifts, and then in the meantime, to kind of entertain us, this is back before Game Boys and everything else, we would make recipes. My parents would get a cookbook and we would just make something. So that kind of initially inspired me to do it, and then obviously with the Food Network coming out and seeing Emma Lagasse on the TV and Rachel Ray and all these people, that definitely boasted a lot of people into that field. But really, honestly, it was going to Chevy's class, what we talked about earlier, just making smoothies out of a blender. That's originally how it started. But yeah, literally going to that culinary banking program that started in my junior year. By my senior year, it was like they had people coming in from Tijuana Flats, and people came in from, I think Chevy worked at, where was it? Cheesecake Factory, and I think he had a team of people come in, and they showed us how to sear a chicken in a pan and bake it in the oven, and take it out and make a pan sauce. And I was like so blown away that something that was so easy could taste so good. And yeah, that really just set me on from there. I think by the end of my senior year, I got my first kitchen My first kitchen job. Was working at Blockbuster before that. And
Blockbuster.
yeah,
Interesting.
I was working at Blockbuster before that.
A lot of our students have no idea what Blockbuster
is.
Right.
I know, I'm just showing my age. But yeah, so I think my AGM at the time, her husband worked as a sous chef at, it's a restaurant that's no longer around, but it's Gino's Lakeside. It was over in Altamont. And he was like, you'll never cut out for the kitchen. You'll never be cut out for the kitchen. And I think I got fired from Blockbuster. I'm sorry, I got fired from Blockbuster for saying a very mean thing to a lady. And when he found out that that's how I got fired, he called me up and said, you will do great in the kitchen. Come on down. So that was how I got my first kitchen. I got my foot in the door. I'm making $7.15 an hour and working probably 10-hour days, right from the get. And that was the thing with most people. They go to culinary school and they go in and they think that, you know, they kind of get fed a line. You're going to be an executive chef when you get out of here. And culinary school is a great base foundation, but really, what really makes a great chef and getting that, and it's like everything else in life, it's just time and attention. You know, you have to be in the job, you have to, you know, earn people's respect, you have to be able to command a kitchen, you have to be able to teach, you have to be able to be a best friend, and then also be the guy that like will toe the line and make sure that everything gets done correctly. You know, it's a hard balance, but it's very successful when you send out a dish, or very rewarding for me, I should say, when you send out a dish and someone's, man, that's the best thing I've ever had. You know, how did you make that? And you're like, I can't tell you.
Can't tell you.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So, but you have to tell the guys in the back. You have to teach them how to do it. So that's like the biggest thing.
So growing up, you mentioned that you you would create your own menus. So what is something that you cook outside of the restaurant like really well, or that you enjoy cooking?
Oh man, that's a tough question. I always kind of relate that question to be like asking a painter what's their favorite color. You know, some people kind of have like, I don't know, like,
okay, painter, what's your favorite color?
What's my favorite color, right? Obviously for me, I'm a big meaty guy. I like to cook a ribeye at home. You know, that's a very classic answer. But honestly, man, like anything Italian. I like making pasta from scratch, bread. I love making bread. Anything to get my hands dirty, you know. Get my elbow in there, you know. Like I really enjoy that. So I would say something along those. It's very like rewarding to, you know. I know sourdough's a big craze right now, and everybody's doing sourdough, but it's, you know, one of those things where you start with a few ingredients and a lot of time and a lot of nurturing and a lot of figuring like, how did somebody figure this out? You know, like who had time to do this, you know? And like, and then you do it and it comes out great and amazing and all your friends love it. I mean, there's nothing more rewarding, you know?
So you mentioned Chevy, and let's talk about like your experience at Lake Howell High School.
Yeah.
Were you involved in any extracurricular activities other than like, well, culinary?
With culinary, I mean, I played lacrosse. I played lacrosse my entire time I was there. That was something too that was very eye-opening for me. I don't think a lot of people get to experience that in life, where there's a need that a lot of people have to be a part of something, part of a tribe, part of a culture, part of whatever. And like that was like my really first experience. I was kind of like online gaming became a thing when we were in high school, and that started. And so I kind of had ballooned up in my freshman year. I think I was like 220 pounds, a little short kid. And I remember my sister's boyfriend at the time was like, I play lacrosse. You should play lacrosse. Come on and try it. I was like, I'm going to play lacrosse. And man, I didn't realize there was so much running involved in lacrosse. We ran like 20 miles a day, every day. And I got skinny, but it also was great for my health, great for my attitude, great for my whole mental capacity, trying to, you know, befriend people. I mean, high school is such a pivotal stage in your life, and you're just trying to fit in, and, you know, it's just, it was great. It was really awesome.
Favorite subject in high school other than culinary?
Other than culinary? History.
History.
I loved history. Mr. Cabal was our history teacher, and I still remember this day. He gave a speech on his first day of class and said, history is, everyone wants to talk about the date, the start date and the ending date. History is that little line in the middle, and that's everything. And it really captured me. I don't know. There's a lot of lessons to be learned from history and a lot of things. So,
who's your teacher that you would say had the most impact, a profound impact?
She's actually here today, Miss Sandra Rivas Cole. She actually it'd be Miss Cole.
Really?
Yeah. Ms. Rivas.
How did she inspire you?
She let me be the person who I needed to be. You know what I'm saying? I think that was a lot of. I'm that person in the kitchen. I'm the opposite of that. I'm very demanding. You guys need to do X, Y, Z, and it needs to be done my way. And I think at a very pivotal part in my growth and being in high school, she just let me be sometimes a person, you know, not a student, but a person, you know, so it's cool.
Hence the art reference that you used earlier about the painting. So
yeah, exactly.
I can see the influence.
I'm a terrible drawer, but man, I'll feed you some good food, I promise.
So if we could describe your experience at Lake Howell as a student in one word, what word would you use? Or it could be several words.
One word that describes my tenure at Lake Howell?
Yeah.
That's a tough one.
More than one.
Community. I would probably say, yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I felt very, I don't know, it's weird, but I had a lot of friends in Lake Howell, and all from different sides, and a lot of perspectives, and a lot of different stuff like that. And I feel like a lot of people care. But, you know, I know it's probably, I don't know how it is today, and I know there are a lot of people that do care, but it's probably a lot harder, you know, now to get through to a lot of people. And I think like that was, community. I would probably say.
Community. Great word. So this goes to our last question then. What would you say to our students, especially our culinary students who's interested in going into the restaurant business and maybe having a Otto's high dive for themselves
one day? Wow. Words of advice, I would have to say, if you want to, it's a very tough job. I'm not gonna lie. There's a lot of hours, a lot of holidays you'll miss. It's not a very glamorous job, but it's very rewarding. And I think for those people that are looking for that in their life, looking for something very rewarding and willing to like dedicate their life to something, I think this is the right job for you. And in order, the first step, I would just say, it's kind of backwards. I would say go get a job in a restaurant. Don't go to culinary school first. Go get a job in a restaurant, because that is what being in a restaurant is like. And the more people work in that environment, the more they'll understand of like what it takes to be a great chef, because it's not just about the food. It's, like I said, everything else. It's the cleaning, it's the education, the
white tile.
Yeah, the white tile. Yeah, and it's very easy just to throw your hands up and say like, that's enough for today. And there always has to be that person that is, you know, has to toe the line. So I think it's that, but you know, trying to, because the cooking itself is amazing. Like that's what everybody loves, you know. And unfortunately, there are, just like everything in life, there are some unglamorous things about the restaurant world. The hours, the work, the time, just the being around the same people for, you know, 14 hours a day. It can really wear on you. These walls get really small, you know. So just that whole aspect. But I mean, once you do that, go to culinary school, get a base foundation. I mean, there is so much creativity in cooking that is, you know, I still to this day, I get blown away. I've been in the industry as a chef, as a dishwasher, as an owner of a business for, you know, 20 plus years now, and some guy out here who's never cooked a day in his life will still blow my mind by doing something. And I'm just like, how did I never think of that before? You know, so it's very, very rewarding. But yeah, I would say, you know, work hard. You know, hard work will get you there.
All right. And that concludes today's Legends of Lake Howell. Again, thank you, Sean, for allowing us to visit your restaurant. And I look forward to trying some of your delicious food.
Thank you. Pleasure.